please.
If you have to sign in.
Yeah.
Heard the good news today about the D-triple-C?
Yeah.
Yeah, so these are $1 pieces. Actually,
You guys have all my other
Excuse
information.
me. Excuse me. Did you sign in?
Yep.
Excuse me, sir. Sir.
And then afterwards, closing remarks. Usually we do like 45 minutes to an hour, and then sometimes people have, guest speakers have waited for all questions to react. But it's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you. You have to get like to
Right.
Before we get started, I just want to say hello real quick. Sorry? I want to say hello.
Hi, Zach. How are you? Oh, good. Good to see you. How are you? I'm
Hey, Andy. Andy, are you 4th Century States? Andy, why did you vote against the child tax credit? Why are you against the child tax credit?
Sir, we don't do a lot of that stuff here. You're going to end up having to leave.
Okay.
All right? So let him do what he's got to do,
right.
and you go do what you got to do. Oh, by the way, we don't let people get away with interrupting. Sir, he needs to talk to you.
How are you? How you doing?
Good. Who are you with?
Who am I with? Do you work here at the restaurant?
How are you in the restaurant?
Oh, good to hear. Nice to meet you. We've been here before. I'm with McCarthy's campaign.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been here before. We've been patrons.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
McCarthy's been here before.
Yeah, I know. We have.
But save your questions and ask him when you get the opportunity to ask.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Instead of hawking them. There's a lot of people here. This is a relaxed atmosphere. This is It's not the press. It's not
Yeah.
Washington, D.C.
Yep. Well, actually, he's actually here in the district right now. He's in Tom's River right now.
Well, we would like him to do this here too.
Yeah, he absolutely will. So, yeah, I mean, we've been here before for debate watch parties and stuff. So,
We've had great times.
Yeah.
I love it.
it's good. I love this place.
Thank you. I love
That's why I was excited when.
Just try not to be as aggressive.
Oh yeah, of course. Yep. I got you.
I don't have any security on today.
I got you. I hear you.
Yeah, but
So,
Mark, he's the guy you got to talk to. This
What?
is the guy you got to talk to get McCarthy here.
All right. All right, we'll talk. But don't call the problem here.
all right, I won't. Appreciate it.
Hello, Rachel. Rachel.
I got you. We'll see you around.
Rachel. I'll talk to you about that.
About what?
Actually,
Do you work here?
No.
Oh, where do you work for? You work for them?
I'm retired.
I got you.
Okay, watch out, Jen.
Rachel.
We'll
Hey, where did Rachel go? Oh, she must be in the bathroom.
who's Rachel?
No,
My wife. My girl.
who's starting, Rachel?
Gotcha.
Oh,
No, you'll do the introduction.
I know.
Hey man, where are you from?
Me?
Yeah, where are you from?
Brick.
Rick?
Yep.
Out in Ocean? How do you like it there?
Good. Very good.
Yeah.
Good so far.
Yeah. Is this your first campaign event?
There she is.
Is this your first event?
Got her.
No, I've been to many.
You've been to many?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rachel.
Been doing this since high school.
Since high school? Where'd you go to high school? In Brick?
Brick.
Yeah.
Yep. Where are you from?
Riverton.
Where do you work?
I am in college. Yeah.
College?
Yeah, home for break. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I go to school in Maine.
All right.
Yeah.
I got you.
Oh, you guys got to back
Yep, we'll back up.
Yeah.
Sir, you have to step up the stage. We're getting ready to
Sorry
start.
about that.
Over there. Testing, testing. Testing.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I know.
Testing, testing. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first of our series called March Unto Victory. My name is Rachel Delgado. I'm with Our Revolution South Jersey. Tonight we have a town hall with Andy Kim, candidate for U.S. Congress District 3. All right, we're going to start with a few thank yous. Mark.
All right. I'd like to thank Jim Filler. He gives us this area, this part of his operation, to host candidates. Who is Jim? Where are you? He's the guy we hired to work on the lights. That's it, Jim. I'd like you to remember, let's take care of our bartender, the beautiful Nicole, and let's take care of our servers too, please. I'd like you all to remember what we really work on here is to have a candidate's night. This is your turn to ask the candidate questions. This is not your turn to interrupt the candidate. This is not your turn to act anything less than civil. People need to meet people running for office, and this is your opportunity to meet with Andrew Kim and engage with him. So let's get this show started. Here's Rachel.
All right, before we go on, our next event will be on Tuesday, March 20th, with the other candidate, Fred Laverne. We'd like to thank Citizens Media TV. Ben Zoli here is our correspondent. Citizens Media TV is an independent media and the official media outlet for Our Revolution South Jersey. All right, before we go on, ground rules. Okay, a lot of you saw the index cards when you walked in. These are the questions that will be asked to Andy Kim. Okay, if you haven't filled one out, please fill one out. Fran over there will start collecting them, and we'll keep moving along. We will answer as many questions as possible. Okay, do not yell out your questions, please. All right, questions will be answered as promptly as possible. This is not a discussion hour. Okay, there's plenty of time afterward to talk to the candidate if you want to engage further along. There is also the questions we will conduct for about 45 minutes to an hour, and there will probably be questions afterwards, probably for our guest speaker. All right, next in our lineup is we have a moment of silence, remembrances, and thoughts from Fran Nick.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to take a minute out. We live in a small world. A 1981 Morristown High School graduate buried his son in Parkland, Florida yesterday. A personal friend of mine escaped the bullets but saw his two friends get killed. This affects all of us, even though if it's 1,000 miles away. If I can just take a moment and have a moment of silence before we get started. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laurel Smith. This is my son Jameson. Many of you know us. We've been involved with our revolution for a couple of years. We're also involved with New Jersey Congressional Action District. And Jamie will not come up on the stage. He's being bashful, which, as you know, that's kind of unusual. But we're proud because he is a fellow for Andy Kim. And we first met Andy outside the Tom MacArthur Town Hall a number of months ago. And very briefly, and have been following him. And we are absolutely thrilled to have him here tonight. And I want to welcome the next congressional congressman from District 3, Andy Kim.
I never caught your name. What's your name
ready
again?
for coming out.
Did you drive here all the way from break?
A little bit under the weather, so apologize. I feel like, with a 2.5-year-old in daycare, I think I just have gotten used to just having a baseline level of not feeling well whenever he sneezes in my face. So, thank you so much for coming out. I did want to start with some remarks. Tell you a little bit about what's on my mind. Tell you a little bit about myself, and then we can open it up for questions. What I wanted to start by is talking about what's on probably a lot of your minds, what happened in Parkland, Florida. What I can assure you is that I have been able to think of very little else beyond what happened a week ago in Florida. It's absolutely devastating to think about what happened to those families, to think about what happened to those children. And in particular, something that just really stuck in my mind and just been replaying over and over again in my head was about those text messages that the students were sending to their parents. The text messages that they were so scared that this was potentially going to be the last text message that they sent, the last communication to their parents. One that I sort of stuck in my head was from a student named Sarah. And she said, "If I don't make it, I love you and I appreciate everything you did for me." And that, I just kind of reread that over and over again. And I could feel the heaviness in those words. I could feel the frightened fingers typing that out. Because I had to type something like that once before in my life too. I had that kind of experience. I know what it's like to feel like this is your last communication with the person you love most. When I was I served in Afghanistan. I was a diplomat over there trying to help with the peace process. And I was working over at the military base one day. And the base, we started hearing some gunfire. We thought that the gunfire was, maybe it was just an exercise or something like that. But we soon heard the explosion. We started hearing that, there was something else, and then the sirens went off. The duck and cover sirens went off. I remember the gunfire was so close that we thought that there was a breach of the base. We thought perhaps that the enemy had breached the base and were potentially outside. The colleagues that I had who were military servicemen and women immediately got up and we tried to come up with a plan of how we were going to get to safety. I remember when we went outside and we could hear the gunfire, we could hear the rocket-propelled grenades going off. And we were running towards some sort of hardened shelter, something where we can take some cover. And when we got to the first wall, my heart was beating and I took out my phone and I wrote a message to my wife while we took break there and tried to think of our next steps. And this morning I actually dug that message up and I wanted just, it's very brief, but I just wanted to read it to you. I wrote to my wife, Cam, and I wrote very briefly, Cammy, base is under attack. I am taking cover. I love you so much, Andy. And that's all I had the time to write. That's all I had the time to write, is there was a window in which one of the servicemen and women that I was working with grabbed my arm and said, we gotta stick together. And we ran over to the base, the gym in the base, which is the only building that had hardened walls. And we took cover there for 20 hours while we were under attack. And I just desperately wanted to hear my wife's voice on the phone. I desperately wanted to tell her how I felt, and knowing that I couldn't imagine what she was going through on the other end. Yet receiving that message, thinking about and worrying about me. And I was there, worried about just the battery life on my phone so I could try to keep on calling, but the service wasn't getting through. So I tell you that because what's happening is so devastating. What the children went through, the families that were shattered, nobody should have to go through and write that kind of message. Nobody should have to go through that kind of pain. That's why we are turning to our government, that the children are now leading this. The teenagers are the ones leading the moral charge right now, instead of our elected leaders. And simple, common sense things that we should be doing. I can't believe that we have a Congress that is moving forward, a House of Representatives that is moving forward on the concealed carry reciprocity bill. I can't believe that they're trying to think of ways to make it easier for people to access silencers. Yet other measures, like strengthening background checks, getting rid of bump stocks, regulating high-capacity magazines, that these are things that our lawmakers are not going forward and doing. Things that would make us safer. Instead, it's up to the teenagers, to the people who survived this deadly attack just days ago, to be leading this charge. Well, I tell you now that I stand with them. I think you do too. You are here 9 months before Election Day because you know that we deserve better as a society. That we can and must be doing better. And if it's going to be the students of Parkland that move this forward, then so be it. Our job is to stand there with them and do everything we can to be able to make sure that our government doesn't get let off the hook this year. We have to go through this every single time that there's a massacre. I got into this work of public service and I'm running here and standing here before you because this is about saving lives. It's something that my mother and my father taught me. My mother was a nurse, somebody who's dedicated her life to trying to help people here in South Jersey, working in the hospital systems here. My father, someone who grew up in an orphanage, a survivor of polio. He's somebody that went on and became a renowned scientist, someone who's dedicated his life to try to cure cancer and Alzheimer's. That's what this is about. It's about saving lives. And I can't think of anything more important at this day and age. So I've worked, some of you know, I've worked as a public servant my whole career. I worked proudly as a U.S. diplomat. I've served under both Republicans and Democrats because I believe service to our country is an honorable thing. And that we need to be focused in on the people, not hyper-partisan politics. That we need to find ways to have real solutions that move this forward. Real solutions that are about focusing on challenges of our time. But these challenges that we're facing right now, whether it's about gun violence prevention, whether it's about climate change, whether it's about campaign finance reform. It's Washington that's holding us back. Because they continue to define the game based off of winning and losing. They define it based on the partisan. But that can't be how we do it. I believe that there is a better way. I have seen it. I'll tell you one more story and then we can open it up. For me, when people ask me the best and worst days that I had working in government, when I was working at the White House, they asked me, what was it? And I told them it was actually the same day. It was a day back in 2014 when the Yazidi people in Iraq, tens of thousands of them, were being chased by ISIS out of their towns, out of their houses, out of their villages. They fled up to the top of a mountain called Sinjar Mountain. They fled up there, trying to take shelter, without food and water, stuck on top of this mountain, tens of thousands of them, about to be massacred by ISIS. It was a hot pursuit. There was nobody that was in a position to be able to come help them, to come try to save their lives. I remember this very vividly because the question came upon us, upon me and others that were working in government. What can we do to help them? And what I saw when the president asked us and said, come up with a plan, when he said, I want to have a plan by 6 p.m., delivered to the chief of staff to me, and I gathered the best and the brightest of the government together in the Situation Room. And over the course of the next few hours, we did everything we could to come up with the best plans that we could put together. Bring together our best minds, our strongest and smartest people. And I am extremely proud of what we put together. By 6 p.m. I walked into the Oval Office. We briefed the President of the United States about the plan, about how we can help save these lives on top of the mountain. Without hesitating, the President approved the plan. We went forward, and within 24 hours, we had tens of thousands of pounds of food, water, and shelter material dropped from U.S. planes on top of that mountain, helping save these lives, helping give them hope in their darkest moments. In 24 hours, we had our planes dropping tens of thousands of pounds on top of a mountaintop on the other side of the world, deep in enemy territory. It was amazing what we could accomplish. I tell you that because I saw at that moment a government that can inspire. I saw at that moment a government that when it's focused on the people, when it's focused on the challenges and not thinking about whether or not it's a Democrat idea or a Republican idea, but the challenges of focusing in on just the people. That is what we can accomplish. And in 24 hours, we were able to help avert and stop the genocide. It was the proudest moment I've ever had in my career. And it's something that I carry with me every day when I watch TV and go, how can it get any worse? And I'm terrified by what's happening. And things seem so bad. But I continue to hold hope. I continue to do what it is that I do. I come here and talk to you, and I know that you are here because you also believe that there is something better out there. That we have the means to have a better government, but it only starts if we have better people in government. Amen. So I go back to those text messages. And I think about what those children, what those teenagers had to write. I think about what I had to write to my wife. But I also think about what my colleague said to me as he pulled up my arm when I finished sending that message to my wife. He said, we have to stick together.
Yeah, when you're finished.
We have to stick together. So when we're down, when we write a message wondering if that's the last time we're going to see our loved ones, what gets us up is working together. We have to stick together. So thank you so much. I'm excited to be able to be here today and talk to you.
Thank everyone for being here. Now we're at the point where these meetings are known for. Every gubernatorial candidate that's come here and said, man, you guys have some rough questions. So we're going to start with the rough questions.
They're not that rough. Okay. This question is from Ann. Hello. How can we protect the ADA?
This is something I was actually just talking to my team about today because I just couldn't believe what the Republicans in Congress were pushing forward on gutting the ADA. You know, when we saw just a couple days ago, you know, literally the day after I think the shooting, Tom MacArthur, the only member of Congress from New Jersey to vote for and co-sponsor the bill that was going to make it harder for disabled Americans to be able to get the fair treatment that they deserve, to be able to access public spaces, public venues like this, putting the burden on those that are disabled veterans, young children with disabilities, our elderly. I couldn't believe it. This is something that I've been talking to a number of people about, and it's certainly something that we need to make sure. I think first and foremost is the reason why I'm here today is because how we protect ourselves, how we protect the ADA, how do we protect those who are most vulnerable, is by doing everything we can to help flip this district, help flip the House this coming November, making sure we have real checks and balances. Making sure we have real ways to be able to stop a dangerous legislative agenda, stop these dangerous bills. I hope that our Senate doesn't move forward on this. I hope that people like incredible leaders that we have, like Senator Tammy Duckworth, who knows full well what dangers these types of measures will do. Someone who lost her limbs fighting for us, fighting for our country. She's the kind of person I looked up to. She's the kind of person that a lot of us need to turn to. She's going to be leading us, leading the charge to make sure that this doesn't get through the Senate. We certainly need to do everything we can to continue to make sure that our senators are vocal about this, that our senators don't just say, we got you, but they actually go out and make sure that this never sees the day of light. So we got to start there. We'll do everything we can. We can't take anything for granted, but we need to pay attention. I will be the first to admit, I did not know as much about that particular bill prior to, because there are so many other problems going on. So we need to stay focused. We need to know what's coming down the pipe. We can't just be reactionary. We need to know what's happening, and that's why it's important. Generally, that is what our representative is supposed to tell us. Generally, it's on our own representative, our own member of Congress, to inform us about these types of bills, to inform us about these priorities going forward. Unfortunately, we don't have that here, so it's up to us, and I will work there with you.
Next question. Do you support the $15 minimum wage?
We need to absolutely make sure that our workers have more. I think we need to be getting there. Absolutely. This is something where it's about making sure that people have the ability to not just survive, but thrive. Making sure that we can move forward and find ways that people have enough money for them to be able to pay for it, be able to build up their costs, save for their family, move forward. That's probably the number one thing that I hear about as I go around this district is better paying jobs. Finding ways in which we can make sure that this inequality in this country gets under control. Things are spiraling out of control. It's unbelievable when the 3 wealthiest people in America have as much wealth as the bottom 50% of this country. That is absolutely right. But it can't just be about increasing wages. It's about a package. We need to make sure we're taking other steps together to be able to address that inequality. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to get out of control. So I want to make sure.
It's good to hear you say it's not just about increasing wages, because of course there'll probably have to be some exemptions to $15 an hour minimum wage, because it's my personal hope that it gets passed, because it'll be able to make a company like Lowe's more competitive with the mom and pop hardware store. But what can we do to help that mom and pop hardware store? Yes, of course, we need a living wage. I was in the movie business all my life, 55 years, won national awards at it. And the only way to keep a good employee was to pay a living wage. But it seems like everything's gotten so high with small and medium business, it's hard. And And yes, I believe in the $15 minimum wage, but I don't think we can impact that wage on small business the same way we impact it on big business. So do you believe that there could be some exemptions to it just for small business?
Yeah, I mean, this is something where the focus definitely needs to be on doing this in a way as a package, as I was saying. So finding ways in which we can support small businesses in particular, making sure that everyone's able to do this in a transition where we're able to lift up everybody. We're able to address some of that inequality. Things like, tax credits for small businesses to increase hiring. Things like that are important ways that I hear from small business owners here in the district that they can be, those are things that can help. Finding other ways in which to support. So it isn't just about raising wages, as I said. It's about supporting our small businesses, supporting ways in which we can do that in a way that is going to be methodical, strategic, and a way that's not going to make sure that we don't lose jobs or have any problems along the way.
Excellent. Okay, the next question is from Ken. It is, what is your position on the issue of separation of church and state, especially when religious beliefs come into conflict with civil rights and using taxpayer money?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one is something that we followed through on the. We got to follow through and stay true to the separation of church and state. That this is something where we need to make sure that we remember that our government here is our country here is a country of many faiths. That this is something where we need to respect and cherish our diversity. Make sure that we're not imposing upon others. That we can be guided by our beliefs. We can be guided by our faith, and that can be something that draws upon. I know that I certainly do. And I think that it's important for us to have that sense because we want to make sure that we are in a society that is believing in our rules. When we're talking about issues of gun violence prevention or health care or these other issues, these are issues to me that are issues that need to be about our morals. It needs to be about what we believe this society is doing and how we can help each other, how we work with each other going forward. So that's incredibly, incredibly important. But it's important to make sure that we don't impose things upon others, that we make sure that we have that kind of separation. It's been a founding principle and something that has guided us and will continue to guide us.
The next question is from Mike from Medford. The current budget has increased military spending. How do you feel about this?
So for me, I've worked as a diplomat over the course of my entire career. I spent most of my time in Iraq and Afghanistan working on the wars. I did that because I was firmly, I did not support the previous Iraq war. I wanted to make sure we could bring our armed service men and women home as quickly as possible. I wanted to make sure that I try to use my skill sets as a diplomat to try to make sure we can bring them home as quickly as possible. For me, this is about national security. National security is important, but what's important is that we don't conflate national security with just military. National security is something that we always talk about in government as founded upon 3 Ds: defense, diplomacy, and development. Now obviously there's other parts of it too, but that's just kind of a rough frame. And people talked about saying that those are the legs of the table of national security. But I always said, well, given the imbalance in spending between defense, diplomacy, and development, that's an unusable table. That's an awfully wobbly table. So for me, of course, I do want to make sure we have strong defense. I want to make sure we have strong national security, but that includes making sure that we are strengthening our diplomacy at a time when this administration is doing the exact opposite. That career public servants like myself, colleagues that I work with, are being pushed aside, are being told their opinions don't matter, are being left out of critical meetings. I think you and I can agree that the crisis that we have in North Korea right now is probably one of the most concerning, if not the most concerning one for us in terms of the international world right now. We do not have a Senate-confirmed ambassador in our embassy in South Korea after over a year. We have 25,000 Army servicemen and women there. They deserve an ambassador. They deserve a full Senate confirmed ambassador overseeing them. We have a lot of U.S. citizens that live there. So diplomacy is critical. Development is critical. These are the types of tools we need. So what I say is that when we're thinking about how we spend, when we think about the impact of the global leadership that we're going to have, it needs to be balanced. We need to think about this in terms of all the different tools. And that's how we're going to be able to move this forward in a strategic and thoughtful way that will be the best way to help make sure that we are all protected.
Okay, the next question actually comes from several people. One is Wayne and a couple unnamed, but it's the same question. Where do you stand on single-payer health system?
So this is an issue that I know we're all thinking about a lot. Let me tell you sort of where I stand here on the values first. I believe that healthcare is a right. I believe that everybody in this country, rich or poor, deserves to have health. That they deserve to have health care. Because I'll tell you a story. This is really what kind of brought it to my core. I worked at the Chicago Coalition for the Homeless when I was a student in Chicago when I was young. I worked there as an organizer and a policy advocate there, trying to help stop veteran homelessness, trying to help end child homelessness in the city. I had to meet and speak with a lot of homeless families, homeless parents, talk to them about the different services that were available. And when I talked to them, I had asked them this question: how did this happen? How is it that you're in front of me today? How is it that you became homeless? And what they told me all started to blur together. The hundreds of people that I spoke with all started to blur together because it basically was the same story. Basically, it was something along the lines of, well, we live paycheck to paycheck. And one month, my husband got sick, or my wife got sick, or my children got sick. And we had to then choose between paying our rent and paying for our health. And that's why I would hear that over and over. That is not a choice that people in the most powerful, richest country in the world should ever have. That is not. Those are the values by which I'm approaching this issue. Now, it's important for me, as somebody who's been working on foreign policy, to make sure I know that I'm actually talking to the experts on it. So I've been talking, actually we have another roundtable coming up this weekend. We have roundtables with doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, patients, making sure we're talking to them about these different issues. So I'll tell you full front. For me, I want to approach this in a strategic way. I want to have humility to this and understanding that I don't know all the answers about such a complicated issue. I don't know all the answers about something that affects 20% of our economy. But I want to make sure that we approach this in the right way. That we approach this in a way in which we are looking at it. But in the meantime, what I can tell you is that nothing is going to get done towards this as long as Trump is in the Oval Office and the Republicans control it. Here's what I tell you. There are urgent crises that we need to make sure we deal with as well. The opioid crisis is taking the lives of over 140 Americans a day. Prescription drug medication costs are going through the roof and causing so many Americans to suffer. There are these issues. I want to make sure we're focused on these because these can't wait. None of this can wait. But what I tell you is that we will do everything I can. I will not vote for a single health care bill even if the CBO says even one American will lose their health care. We can't be moving back. We have to be moving forward. And we need to be moving forward until every single American has health care. Until we have the type of system that gives people dignity. This is a moral issue to me. I believe that people fundamentally need to make sure that they are healthy. So that is my promise to you. Those are the values by which I'm approaching this. And I promise you I will do everything I can to make sure we get to that end.
As I mentioned when we started, we are live streaming on Citizens Media Television. we have constituents who are sending in their questions. So we now have correspondent Ben Zoli with a question.
Dr. Kim. So this question actually comes courtesy of Jeff Epstein, editor-in-chief of Citizens Media TV. We went through your new issues page. Am I loud enough?
No, sir.
On your new issues page, I'm excited about your idea to allow Medicare to negotiate with pharmaceutical companies. This is undeniably good. I'm concerned about another part, however. As I interpret it, your statement on healthcare says that access to affordable insurance is the fundamental problem with our current system, and covering everyone is, quote, our moonshot. Using the term moonshot in this text is something that concerns me. Medicare for all and single-payer healthcare would be extremely simple ways to cover everyone. You just expand the already successful Medicare system from 65 and older all the way down to 0. It is the medical care that makes the difference, there we go, not the insurance company. If full public coverage is possible, mere access to insurance would not be a moonshot. Universal healthcare, not universal insurance, is the goal. It seems that the very purpose of language like moonshot would be to lower people's expectations, and it honestly seems geared toward buying more time for for-profit healthcare. So we'd like to ask you, is universal free healthcare impossible?
Sure. I mean, I think this is very much related to what I was just going through. So I think the semantics in terms of moonshot, I think maybe misleading here, or maybe something that we're coming up with a different understanding. For me, the thing about moonshot is that for me that's an issue about political will. That's kind of the issue. Is that when we had the moonshot, it was an incredible vision from our elected leaders, people like President Kennedy, that gave us that vision of where we're trying to get to. That vision of what we can achieve. A lot of what we have, like for instance, I use that language similar for when we talk about climate change. Because I think that's another issue where this is about political will. That we have the means to be able to get there. We have the means to be able to do things. It's just the political will is not what's holding us back. So I absolutely believe that we can have a system where everyone in this country has the health care that they deserve, that we have a system where we are addressing climate change with the severity and necessity that we need to. But so much about this comes down to, do we have elected leaders that have that kind of vision? Because the problem is that our politics has become so nearsighted. And in part because we're in this kind of reactionary mode constantly. With this administration, we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. Literally, we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. So I don't hear politicians talking with that level of vision, with that process. There are some great leaders that do, and those are ones that I think a lot of us admire. But for me, as somebody who never thought that I'd be running for Congress, I'm approaching this because I'm a concerned citizen. I'm a father. I'm a public servant. The leaders that I look up to were the ones that had that kind of vision and dared us to try to find a way to get there. And were willing to put in the resources necessary to be able to get there. So that's the way in which I'm approaching it.
Right, the next question is from Anthony. And he says, how do you view federal financial responsibility for detaining undocumented people that the local law enforcement encounters?
It's a little dark out here, I couldn't tell you. I think it's incredibly, this issue of immigration is incredibly important. I think that we're all horrified by the situation that's been created, this type of crisis that the Trump administration has created, based off of this, fiction of a deadline that they put forward, and the lack of our leaders being able to move forward and do it. This is an issue that, this is an issue that I want to make sure that we're engaged on more. I'll be very honest with you, I'm not an immigration lawyer. This is an issue that I'm working hard to be able to get more details on, but it's an issue very dear to my heart as someone who's a son of immigrants. And I look through and I see a system that they're trying to put forward by the Trump administration where they're against these values that I consider to be so deeply part of this country, of diversity and embracing our diversity, recognizing the fact that all of us, probably everyone in this room, comes from that kind of immigrant background. So what I just want to do is make sure that we have a process in this that is fair, a process that is just and treats people with dignity and respect. As we go through the details of that, that's something that I hope I'll be able to work with others who are experts on this and understand the different ins and outs of how that moves forward. But I want to make sure that we treat people with dignity and respect, that they have the times that they're able to, that they are given fair and just process, that they are treated in a way that we would all want to be treated, and that we are able to move forward in a way that we can be proud. So I hope that that's the way that we can move forward on this issue.
Okay, the next question is from Peter from Marlton. I met with an accountant who said that I will save about $2,000 from the tax scam. Tom MacArthur is the only New Jersey delegate in favor of it. Why is it a bad plan?
Look at where the priorities were for this bill. If they're giving 14% permanent tax cuts to corporations, but that money that you might be saving now is something that's going to be expiring in a few years. What then is that 1.4 trillion going? Where is the priority? For me, I believe that our economy, the strength of our economy, is on the foundation of the American worker, the people, the middle class, people that are trying to make ends meet. So for me, this is about prioritization. This is about seeing where the Republicans, where someone like Tom MacArthur is putting his money. When I look at something like how they raised the exemption for the estate tax, something that was already only affecting the tiniest amount of the wealthiest Americans, people like Tom MacArthur, that they do that while they're simultaneously taking away these other deductions, taking away other things that are helping all of us try to have that. And the second thing, it's not just about the taxes, not just about what you're going to see back in the paycheck or what you might have to give to the government. It's about your property values too. This is about the American dream being something where we are investing in our property, that we put our savings into that. That's something that we feel secure about. That's something that we're able to move forward on. But when I hear that Moody's is telling us that 7.5% home value loss here in New Jersey because of this tax bill, what does that mean for all of us? What does that mean for people who've been honestly trying to save and investing, trying to work hard and play by the book that they were told to be able to do? So those are the types of problems that are exacerbated by this tax bill. We all know that we needed reform. We all knew that there were all sorts of loopholes and problems that we needed to solve, that the system could be improved. There's no doubt about that. But when they rush things through, when they run a process without bringing in the experts, without letting people be able to talk, without having public hearings, in the same playbook that they use to ram the Healthcare Repeal Act through the House, when they use that same process, and they're literally scribbling in notes in the margins, trying to get this done in the middle of the night, when we're not able to see what they're doing, when we're not actually having representatives being able to read the entire thing and approach it with the level of scrutiny that we Americans deserve, that's a problem. When they look and talk about how Reagan was, moving us forward with their tax bill in the 80s, well, that process took 2.5 years. It took 2.5 years where they brought in experts, they had real debates, they had a lot of public forums to be able to talk that through. So whether or not you thought that was a good idea, at least the process was done in a way where the American people had an ability to understand what was happening. Instead of just waking up one day and realizing that the entire tax code had just been changed overnight with typos and all sorts of other problems in it. So what I say is that the American people deserved to have a process that was fair, that was transparent, something that we can understand and talk to our members of Congress. God forbid they have McCarthy has a town hall to talk to us about that tax bill before he moves ahead and votes on it. That's what representation is about. And the problem is that MacArthur and I just have fundamentally opposite, different opinions about what representative government looks like. For me, if elected, I believe I will have 700,000 bosses, and every single one of you will be my boss. So I told you, the way in which I approach this is that I want to make sure you're getting the information you need. I pledge to be the most accountable, accessible, and transparent member of Congress that there is. I will have daily reports coming out from my office telling you what I'm doing, what I'm working on, who I'm meeting with, what votes are coming up. I will have monthly town halls in the district open to the public, to all of you, Tom MacArthur has the opposite view. He's been an executive, he's been a CEO. He's used to being at the head of the table. He's used to think, and that's because he thinks he's the CEO of NJ-03. He's not. That's not how you think. So that's what's at stake here in November. It's not just about better policies, it's about better politics. It's not just about better politics, it's about a vision for what representative government looks like, and I hope that your vision is in line with mine, and I hope that you help me out this coming November.
From Ann from Riverton. Would you support current legislation in Congress to establish a federal Department of Peace Building?
I would have to learn more about what that means. I felt like that was a lot of what we were trying to do at the State Department. I think a lot of the State Department is about trying to have diplomas, trying to make sure that we are engaged in a process where military use and that type of force is the last possible effort. That we can make sure that we move forward with a process by which diplomacy is the key, and that we recognize that there are no military solutions to any of the crises that we face in the world today. Is that your question?
That's my question. I just wanted to add that in the current legislation, I want to just read a piece that says, analyzing existing policies, field-tested programs, and developing new approaches to dealing with the tools of violence, including handguns and assault weapons, especially among youth, which is our big issue right now. So I just wanted you to know that.
Okay, no, definitely. And after this, we'll make sure to talk a little bit more about it.
Thank you.
There is no charge.
We're just going to do a few more, and then we'll have our wrap-up and closing. Okay, this next question is, are you willing to refuse corporate campaign donations like Cory Booker recently has? And there's no name on this one.
Well, the answer is I did that already. So back when I started this campaign, I pledged to not take any corporate-backed money, any corporate money to this campaign. This is about you. This is about a campaign focused on the people. What I can tell you is that I'm proud of what we built together. In the couple months that we were running, officially, actively running 2017, we raised over $600,000 from over 6,000 people in all 50 states. It was incredible. And what I can tell you is that in the last fundraising quarter of last year, I beat Tom MacArthur in fundraising. I raised more money. And I did it without taking a dime of corporate money. What I can tell you is that when we dig through the numbers, what he raised that quarter from human beings, from people with a beating heart, is maybe about $85,000. I raised about $320,000 from people. I'm proud of that. I'm proud that we're having contributions way over the. And what I can tell you is that when I talk to people all over this country, as I told you, people from all 50 states have given to this campaign. What I can tell you is that when I call them and I ask them, why did you give to this campaign? I thank them for their contribution. I asked them, why did you give to this campaign in New Jersey? You know, why did you give to this? Do you know somebody who lives around here? Did you drive through the turnpike one day or something? And what I hear from them is they gave to this race because what Tom MacArthur tried to do on healthcare doesn't just hurt people in New Jersey, it hurts people all over the country. That's what I do. Because they know that what we have going on here in New Jersey 3 is one of the most important races in the entire country this coming November. Second state and future over it. And that's why I'm really proud that this morning the Democratic Party, the NJ-03, recognized the hard work that we're putting into here in New Jersey 3, said that we are a priority race, and that's something that I want all of us to have. All of us to have.
I just wanted to verify something that I had read, because it's matching. Between 2013 and 2015, you were an Iraq advisor with the Obama administration, I understand?
So what date?
2013 to 2015, but primarily through 2014.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the exact position at the time, roughly?
I was the director for Iraq at the National Security Council.
Excellent. So according to the Pentagon, in 2014, 800 drone strikes killed 1,000 ISIS fighters in Iraq at a cost of $1 billion. However, the Intercept obtained records that indicate, as a comparison and possible baseline, that during 2012 and early 2013, 80 to 90% of those killed in airstrikes in Afghanistan were not the intended target. If that rate is similar to the rate in 2014 in Iraq, or even if the 2014 rate were closer to 60%, that would mean that potentially 1,000 or thousands of civilians were killed in Iraq during your tenure as an advisor. In light of this, how closely could we expect you to mirror the Obama administration military policy to advise them?
Well, first of all, it sounded like those are numbers from Afghanistan, so I'm confused on how that's being carried over. So,
I mean, it's the same type of strikes being in the same region being executed, and you would expect that the rates of kills in various ways to be similar. And they even allowed for about a 25% reduction of civilian kill rate in order to provide that number of more than 1,000.
well, I don't know what the numbers actually are, and I'm interested in seeing what that article is. But what I can tell you is that the administration's strategy going forward. This is something I told you. I got into this work because I was trying to end the war. I was trying to do everything we can to push diplomacy forward. That was my role as a coordinator, was trying to do everything we can to make sure that we can try to save lives and move forward in a way that can protect the American people. So I'm not sure what the numbers are. I'm happy to talk to you about this afterwards, go into greater detail. But I feel like the servicemen and women that I know and work with, and the diplomats that I work with, that they all have that same goal of doing everything we can to try and make sure that the threat of ISIS was something that was fought in a way that was responsible, and doing a way in which that we can make sure that we try to help save as many lives as possible. So I look forward to talking to the board about that.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. This is just a yes or no question from the floor. Are you willing to debate the other Democratic candidates for District 3?
I'm always up for having conversations and topics.
All right. And how do you plan to work with other members of Congress?
How will I try to work with other members of Congress? Well, I think the main thing that I've come to understand about the work up on the Hill is this is about I try to approach it the same way that I approach the rest of my career, which is about trying to make sure that we're focused in on the issues, focused in on trying to find ways to focus on the people. So what I hope is that I can find other people that are like-minded in these ways. I see a lot of amazing candidates out there. I see a number of very strong current members of Congress that I've always looked up to. And I hope to be a colleague of theirs. I hope to be able to make sure that we push forward. And what I can tell you is that for me, I want to be the kind of member of Congress that is thinking that that could be their last time, that last term in Congress, and I want to do everything I humanly can when I'm in that kind of position to get things done. No, this can't just be about self-perpetuation and just preserving that power and moving forward in that way. And that's why it's so important that we have strong campaign finance reform, because we've gotten to the stage now where we basically have full-time fundraisers that just kind of dabble and do some legislation on the side, and that's a real problem. They don't have the time to be able to do the expertise, to have the expertise, and be able to handle some of those issues. There are people there in Congress that are trying to do the right thing. There are many that are there trying to push their own self-ambition, and we need to make sure that as a people that we try to elect the right people there, and that's how we're going to move this forward.
Path to victory. In other words, how do you plan to win this election?
Get out to vote.
Vote that
Okay, here. No, I'm not going to. We don't have time to kind of go through it all, but here's kind of the direction. This is something where we need to make sure that we are doing everything we can. What I need from each and every one of you. I need each and every one of you to think of and make a list of 10 people who aren't in this room. 10 people who don't normally show up to events like this. This is how we build it out. It's going to be something incredible. We're trying to put together a campaign that's going to make you proud. A people power campaign. We're going to put together the largest get out the vote operation that this district has ever seen. We're going to do everything we can to build it out and out. We are going to do everything we can to show them that this is about leadership with integrity. That this is about envisioning that government that I was telling you about, the government that you deserve, the government that all of us need, the government that's going to help get us through that. I believe that people, Republicans or Democrats or independents, unaffiliated, that we all ultimately want that kind of vision, that kind of government. I believe in the message that we're trying to push with this campaign. And I believe a lot of you are there with me as well. So I look forward to being able to work with each and every one of you over the coming months to build that out. Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed yourselves this evening. And most of all, I hope you got some of the information that you needed to be a viable voter in this campaign. So thank you all. I'd like to thank you, sir, for answering our questions and for being here today. I'd like to thank the campaign staff. And let's remember, we got to get out to vote.
I just want to add an announcement. Tomorrow at 4 o'clock, Tom MacArthur's office, there is a press conference. And I believe there's an event on Friday as well.
Well spoken. How's it going?
Sorry.
Stop recording now.
Yeah, where's the burger?
The burger is there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Run that by this one.